Hello again. I'll start from the beginning for those who aren't here. These are the bi-weekly sessions run every 2 weeks on Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UK. My name is Bally Binning. We're going to dive in and we're going to some slides in a moment. But before we do that and sort of set the scene for today, how many, just raise of hands, you can unmute, how many of you are actually using Canvas, or is this kind of the first you're kind of hearing about Canvas in GPT? So Ivan, you're using it. Okay. Is that kind of, yes, you are a little bit. Good afternoon. So Key saying, um, and so we've got only one hand up. So for the others, can I assume it's new Canvas then? Okay.
Yes, it's new, but I think Bali, you told me about it in passing, and I need to get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, so really interested in learning more about it today.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes, yeah. So we'll go into and as always, it's always good to kind of go through some of these concepts before we start actually looking at how it works. So new for Simbo, Billy, is it new for yourself as well? Okay, so new, assuming higher key. I can't recall if you've used it, but that's okay. Let me check. You may have first. Okay, first time. Okay, you mentioned that. Thank you, Billy. And then we'll look at projects as well, but I'm more leaning towards Canvas, although we will talk about projects. Hi, is that to say yes, you too, or did you have a question?
No, it's to ask a question because I did use Canvas, just for a course before, but not within ChatGPT. So I'm not sure if it's the same principle or if it's the same, application. So that's what I'm wondering.
Okay, yeah, so we've Canva, I suppose the term really comes from like having a Canva, like when you have a blank space. And so we get sort of these terms used in different places. Like we've got Canva, which people, where people are creating and used for creating, kind of content or templates. They have lots like Canva. If anyone subscribes, you have the free version. If you've got the paid version, it's also, and some of you may have already used that. I know a lot of people do use that just either for their work in their business, but there's also Canva. I think you're saying, and when did you use it and how, say how you used it. And it's probably got the similar kind of concept, but I'm assuming you're using it in that paid, sim
It
hired.
was, I think, as a learning management system. Yeah. So that's
I
I'm not sure.
think
Maybe
it's
it's just a homonym. It's just,
yeah.
you use Canvas, but it's a different meaning, I think.
I think I know what it's like Blackboard, like
Exactly,
similar. Yeah.
exactly,
I
exactly.
remember back in the day. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe it's different then.
Yes, yes. So
Okay, okay.
yeah, you've got Blackboard or you've got Moodle, and this is probably one of those platforms where it was used. So okay, so slightly different. Thank you for that. And it's always good to kind of get those checks in to see. So I'm going to get the document. Like I said, I'll kick off and I'll go through some points as I'm going through these slides, which I'll pop up on here. Like I said, if you've as I'm going through these slides, please just ask questions. I mean, I'm happy for you to and Moo ask questions. That's okay because I also notice it's probably best that I do it in PDF just because when I do it in the slideshow, it wasn't actually what was happening was I wasn't able to see when people were asking questions. Okay, so that's kind of what was happening. So anyway, so beyond chat. So what we're going to be looking at today is Canvas actually in the GPT environment. So we're going beyond the chat component. So most of us or most people are using GPT and using the chat. And so what we're going to be looking at is how do we use this tool that's actually embedded in our GPT environment, and how can we use it for our own workflow? That's what we'll explore today. We'll also look at something called projects. Now, And I'll just sort of differentiate. So the way we'll differentiate the two components, like Canvas and projects in the GPTs, we'll compare Canvas to Word, kind of when you've got Word document, as I was talking about sharing that document earlier. So how do they differ? And then also projects, how do they differ if we're using a project or GPT? So it kind of conceptually, we start getting an idea of what that might look like. So if I, yeah, so just kind of reiterating, so these sessions are bi-weekly, every 2 weeks. And I'm open to kind of if things coming up for yourselves, we'll go into those, and I'm happy to explore kind of questions that might arise as we go through from this session, right? So now, great thing about AI is we have this tool, right? Or we have many of these tools, right? So whether over the few weeks we've talked about numerous tools that we're able to access, right? So and actually, what is happening? I might be wrong, but this is what I'm hearing from a lot of people who are using these tools is they're getting a little bit lost in that kind of thread. So it is a little bit like you kind of like you see lots of conversations, you're scrolling and you're trying to find information, and it's really difficult. So rather than kind of helping us kind of get clarity, because that's what we want, right? If we, in any situation, the way to move forward is to get clear on what the thing is, right? Anything we're doing. So what's happening is people getting lost with kind of like one, using the tools, but then in when they start using the tools, we're just going down a bit of a rabbit hole and we're getting lost. Like, where did I start? What was the bit I was going to use? And how do I consolidate all that? Okay, so having maybe not having a missing kind of approach or strategy. So it's really hard to map kind of multi-step processes and kind of and compare what the best option is, right? So like it's about not about just having many, but it's like how we effectively using it. So that's kind of the crunch. Like if we're just, yeah, we know how to use these tools, but are we being effective? So broken focus. So we know that every time we, from lots of our own experiences, when we're not doing that, it takes us effort and time to get back into the thing that we're trying to get back into doing. So whatever it is, so it takes about 23 minutes. Every time we switch in, it's taking us a few moments. So it calls that momentum, productivity, and before you know it, you're just exhausted, right? So we're going to be looking at projects in Canvas, and we're looking at how this could streamline our workflow. So projects, so in that environment, and we will go into this in a very kind of we'll dive into this in example. So as I began saying, I want to give you kind of an idea of kind of conceptually, because when I'm talking about doing these things, people still want an understanding before they use them. So projects help us organize. So we think of projects in other spaces. We think of when we're, using or even sharing documents via Teams, we're using projects to manage, revisit complex work. So we've got that space, and that capability is available in the GPT environment. So rather than jumping between, why GPT? I just find it's contained, it's in one place, and if I'm already using it to where I built my GPTs, I may as well kind of contain that in that environment rather than kind of be switching between lots of different tools, different places, and you're able to track progress. Now, and then of course you're not losing the context either. So in today's example, what we'll do is we'll look at in fact, what I'll do is I'll look at a business plan and how we can change this in this space. I'll show you what I'm talking about as we go through it. So hopefully this is showing up on your screen. So Canvas is a place where you're able to edit, revise, and collaborate. So what you want to be doing is we would use it for open. The nice thing about having Canvas is you're able to open the chat and you're able to open your Canvas. it's used for writing, as these LLMs are. Most of it's used for writing. So once we've got a document we're working on, we can open it in that space. It's also used for coding. For most of us here, we won't necessarily be using unless someone's coding. It can be used for coding projects. But for most of us, kind of in coaching or business or education, we're using it for writing specifically and I'll give you, like I said, an example. So we've got targeted changes. Now, the thing you're going to see is you can actually change in that space. So you can have both side by side GPT, where you can prompt it, and it can give you kind of suggestions, but you can actually make edits in the same kind of space, which you've got the tool there, and you're editing your document, not in this lengthy chat, which you'll see. And so advanced features, it sports history in line with the feedback. So you're in line with that feedback, the most latest version, and you'll see what I mean when we go in. So and like I said, if you've got any questions, I'm always, like I said, always happy to answer those questions. I think, let me just double check if anyone's got a question. Okay, that's right. Okay, so how does Canvas differ from traditional document editing? So I was working with a client, and they said, so why am I going to be using, like, why not just use a doc, or why would I want to use Canvas? Now, there's benefits. The feature we're going to be using, it's like we're working on a document. So now with the GPT context, we're able to do both. We're able to see your Canvas doc. We can, so working in, but we can use our GPT, but we're not able to do or use the AI necessarily in our docs. I know there are tools now. We're seeing more and more of these appearing, where we're getting suggestions on making amendments, and yes, they're coming in, but it's not as seamless as when you're using it, and you'll see what I mean in a moment, right? So it might give you suggestions, but sometimes it can actually detract from that rather than actually just helping you kind of flow. In line with AI collaboration, it asks, yes, it highlights and asks for edits. So you can do that in Canvas. You can ignore them. And the other thing is, you have to do is you've got to obviously copy and paste. There's lots of new versions you have. And, if I remember, I know, Simba, we talked a little bit about this, when we've got lots of different versions, we have like so many different versions that we end up having. But what we can do, we can restore the history in the GPT environment. So, and in the doc version, it's not kind of AI specific necessarily, right? It's not contained necessarily to your voice. The stuff that we've been talking about, sort of containing it in that way, it understands who you are, then it's more specific to kind of the style you're writing and all the other things. So it might give you some generic suggestions, more kind of models we're seeing, but not kind of to the level that you might want it. It's really good for iterations, sort of, and revisions. And with docs, you've still got to do that manual editing. So if you haven't got questions about that, like I said, I will go through this example in a moment. Projects versus custom GPTs. Now, before we've talked about, so I'm just kind of pivoting a little bit now to projects. Is that we've got projects we can have, obviously, we've got lots of files we're uploading in projects. We still can have team collaboration, but that might need a bit of an upgrade with payments. And we can have workflows, as most projects would do, whereas a customized GPTs is a single interface. It's focusing really on that component, whether it's writing, say, it's your ideal client, or it's the type of, say, your style of email writing. So it's mostly solo use. Obviously, we can evoke that, but still it's contained for one area. And custom instructions, of course, both allow for custom instructions. You'll see that in a moment. The great thing about GPTs is the automation, where we can connect them with APIs, and we can connect them and link them to automation processes like make.com and like repeatable tasks. So our variations in these. So just concrete examples. So when you're hearing me go through these, think about examples. Like I said, we'll look at an example of a business plan today. And so think of what you're using. So templates, documents could be maybe you've got terms and conditions you're updating. Every time you're having to do that, you're going into it, but it can be done very quickly using these tools. And then, of course, you've got the clarity of grammar. Obviously, checking this your end. I know a lot of people I speak to still continue using Grammarly, but the AI tools are. I mean, it's good actually checking for that, and also deep analysis. And coding, I put that in small because I just put that maybe most of us are not, but correct me, and analyzing text. So key kind of themes from transcripts with GPT. So it's really good for kind of analysis part. So when we're looking at this example, so I'm going to look at concrete examples, what you may use projects, or you may just say, I'm I'm not ready yet for a project, but more kind of thinking about how you might use it. Product launches, when you've got competitive analysis, business plans, marketing copy, you may keep it in one place. Client deliverables, I've used it when I'm looking at assets, so looking at feedback, that type of thing. Academic research, I may have files, I've kept it in one place. It's really good to kind of pull that data. We've seen examples of using Notebook LM. You can also do this in this space in the projects. And content campaigns, right? So again, you may have blog posts, social media. You may do it that way, or you may just kind of have it in a separate file. You may say, why might I have it there? Because then you can use it in that space rather than having to jump between different places there. So I'm going to go and give you an example in a moment. So just a quick recap, and we'll come back to these slides in a few moments. Canvas first projects, first chat, strategic choice, Canvas for ideal focus, editing, revision in line with AI collaboration, and brief projects best for organizing multiple assets, tracking progress over time. And you've got the chat for quick Q&A and simple tasks, but it does do quite a lot already in the chat. But like I said, we want to bring it into one place. So I'll do a demo and I'll show you how this works. And then I'll ask you to kind of think about work that you're kind of undertaking at the moment and how you might use it. So just let me check if you've got, I'll continue. So before I carry on, some of this you will have seen. I'm going to go into the ChatGPT space, and I'll show you how we can use Canvas in the first, to begin with. I just want to double check how many people have got GPT. You're paying for, when I say GPT, I do mean ChatGPT. Yeah. So Ivan, you've got that. Simba, you perhaps may not, but I just want to also check because when I've been using now OpenAI, GPT from OpenAI, it's their product. I've been using it for a while, so I just want to double check if you may not have it on the free version, the Canvas, but the feature. So you can check as I'm going through this your end if you haven't got the paid version. It might be restricted. So, but I'm not sure if a lot of these kind of you get more kind of features like added on. If you remember going back about a few months, we didn't even have, and we didn't have past 3, did we? And then we got 4 for the free version, and you may have some of that available. So as I'm showing it, it might come up and you might say, yes, I can see that my end. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and so you can, like I said, as always, you can ask questions. Okay, so when you go into, so this is, I will sort of say this is the free sorry, this is the paid version. And so when we go into using any of this kind of chat option here, is where we're looking at these kind of, this is obviously the chat where we have a conversation. Then we've got where we've got the opportunity of uploading files. We've got the search component. So a lot of this in the deep research. Now, this is something I'm looking at doing perhaps next time when we're together, because I think that's something that's coming up. Now, when you get like a notification like this, and this just suggests that I have something like 25 chats available until 10th of May on that on my kind of subscription. But actually, what I notice is I get quite a lot anyway. I mean, I sometimes come to a part where it says you've hit your limit for the day. So if you're hitting that limit, then I find that when I refresh, it kind of refreshes. So if any of you are having that, it just to kind of restart. So you've got this component where you create the image, and it's actually doing quite good. If you're creating any cartoon images, I've created content using these, which do kind of a really good job. So what it does, it looks at Dall-E. So some of you may have used Dall-E, which is actually embedded in this version. And I'm like, you can let me know if this is available in the free version. Perhaps a little bit of it is, but you can then create images using this feature here. And then when you click on here, you've got this canvas component, okay? And so what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to upload an example of a business plan, and you're going to see this change, okay? And when you see it changing on your end, you'll start seeing how I can amend the document as well quite quickly. So when I kind of click on this, okay, I will get this canvas appearing. So if anyone is in their kind of area at the moment, I'm just going to check. So I'm going to use this. So I was playing around with, actually someone who's not here has asked me to do this actually, because they wrote in and said, could we please look at like business plan writing? So I thought, okay, I'll do this, right? Not a problem. So what will happen is if I go into this, now what it will do is it will open into this space. So now what it's doing is it's filling out the information in here. It's like, I haven't instructed it, but it's already filling out kind of this information. And what I want to do is I don't want this information in there, but it's using that template. And so what I want to do is I've got two examples. I thought rather than kind of spend ages typing into this, I'm going to actually paste an example. I've got two that I thought, okay, we'll use this. What I've also, just kind of saving time, what I also did was if you can see on my screen, oh, you're not seeing this bit, like I'll show you what I've done. Let me just copy it across. Let me know if you can see it, because sometimes what happens is it stops showing the screen. Are you still seeing the GPT environment? It froze for a moment. Let me just double check.
Yes,
yeah, thank you. You're still able to see it. Okay. So I just lifted. So one thing before I do something, so this is what I was showing you. This is one of my examples, right? So what I also wanted to do was if you can see, so before I click that arrow here to continue, what you have in this space is what I talked about in those slides, where you have the document on the right-hand side. Then you also have the AI chat component on the left-hand side. Now, in a doc version, you're obviously not going to have that. Now, one thing you're also wanting to do is make sure your prompt is the prompt that's going to help make changes to this. So I did a couple of variations, and it did a pretty good job when I just said, can you fill in, using this information, use the template, fill in and complete the actual document or the Canvas, the document here, using the information from this business as opposed to the one here. But what I had to do, obviously, I need a prompt. So prompt is the bit where you want to kind of consider when you're instructing or telling your GPT or any AI tool. So all I've said here is replace the existing template content with the following updated version for company, and I've added the company below. Keep the structure exactly the same. In other words, keep the format the same, just update sections, intro, about the company, product, services, market, competitor analysis, conclusion with this new text. So that new text follows. So notice when I click on that, what it's going to do, it's going to change the document for me, right? Now, the beauty in that is it does it for you with the information I'm giving it. You can also then, I find this absolutely fantastic. Now, you can't do this in Word because you have to cut and paste. So the amount of time it takes, okay? The other thing you can also then do, okay, is you can come in here, you can actually instruct it and say, you could even say shorten this section. Okay, so you can actually just say shorten this section, and what it will do it for you without having to come in the chat component, and it will do its thing. It might not be how you want it because obviously that's not a great prompt, but it will shorten it, and it will. Hopefully it's shortened it there. I don't know if it has. Let me just double check. And then I can use things like on this part here, I can bold this. One thing I really love about this, I can actually work in this space and change the document. I'm hoping things that just slow down a little bit when I'm on Zoom. So hopefully it's working okay. I can also, if I want to, there's also something here at the bottom, suggest edits. Now, what you can also do with this component, you can change the reading level, you can adjust the length from here. So it's kind of giving you an average, keep the current length, or you can shorten it. I can shorten the whole piece from here. It will shorten in, and you'll see in this Canvas space. I'm hoping this is working because it is slowing down my end. Okay, hopefully this is working. Are you seeing the changes? It should, yeah, it has made the changes there. I can also adjust the reading level. So if I want it kind of like, I want it kind of college, I would say for some of us, if we're using kind of level 7, it may change it, or I might want to simplify it in that way. So the other thing, it has shortened it. Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Ivan, have you got a question? Are you seeing it?
No, you carry on.
Yeah. The other thing I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use a different version. So I thought, okay, what happens, right? So if I'm going in and now I want to use, so I was playing around with this earlier on, and I thought, right, okay, I'm going to use version 2. Okay. Completely different business. Okay. So my sample 2 is, I need to catch that. Let me just make sure I've got the R as well. So it's got the replace. I need that R in there. So one thing it's going to do now, okay, so I go back in my space in the left-hand side again. And what I'd like to do now is I've decided that I'm going to start, like, I didn't know that, Ivan, you had another business, right? So now I want to look at my other business, which is Daily Crumbs. I just made this up, by the way. And so it's made the changes with the executive summary with the information here, right? So, and it's done it. I mean, it's basically, I've uploaded the text. I don't have to have this pre-text ready. I just wanted it ready so that it's a bit like, if you remember the days, like it's this is what I picked earlier. Just sort of got thinking about that. But yeah, that's kind of like how I was thinking about it. Now, if I want to add any changes to this, right, to this space here, so I was thinking, okay, so it's not final, it's still missing a few things. Okay, what's it missing? It's missing, oh yeah, at the end, I just want to say add this bit to it. Okay. So I might go at the bottom here and say, okay, I missed something out. And so one thing really nice about it, I can actually start, instead of having to go in the chat component, I can just say add the, and again, this is all made up, right? What it's doing is it's telling me in the chat what it's doing here, and it's actually taking my document. Okay, so what it's uploaded is the conclusion, it's rewritten it, and now it's added the website. Now, if I don't want to put visit us, I can just put the website here and just kind of put I can just put website as opposed to having to, kind of say visit us, or I can also add my contact details, that type of thing. I can amend this. Now, I can't do this in the chat. When I'm in here, I can't make those amendments. That's one thing that's really nice. I can delete things. I can move this around. If I want to move it here, I want to add to it if I want to. So it gives you that capability that you don't have in sort of like you can do it in Word, but not to the same level. But I can also have these conversations here with my GPT to assist me. I can use my voice mode. You have two voice modes. I can dictate, but I want to type. And so I've got the dictation option, and I can, so it really is, it serves kind of different styles, which I really like. So, so those are that's just a simple example, if you like, of how you can use Canvas, where you're kind of uploading the document, you can change it. In a moment, I'll just say what to do once you're ready with the document. But before I do that, any questions? Ivan, you had a question.
Yeah, just really trying to wrap my head around this Canvas thing. So everything that you do in the little left-hand side window, that affects the whole document. Is that right?
Yeah.
And if you want to go and do the like a particular paragraph, you go, oh, you've lost the plot on this, or show me a source or something like that. You can do that when you highlight the paragraph or 2 or 3 paragraphs and talk about just that piece. But the window on the left is to deal with the whole document. Is that my understanding?
So on the left is your chat when you're viewing it. So your chat is on the left. On the right is your whole document be changed for you, ready. So your document is changing. Now the other conversation I've had is, how do I know which changes I've made? So you've obviously got to stay on top of what changes. If I've shortened something, do I want to shorten it? Do I want to so you've got to be really clear on what that is, because what it will do, it will give you the latest version of that. You can obviously download it. So if you worked on a document, you can still download it, save it, then go back to it, refresh this, and then continue working in this space and add a citation or statistics. There's no stats here. It's only example of like breadcrumbs, the company. Yeah, so it basically gives you the latest version. And it's fairly lengthy. You could have something like up to about 2,000 tokens, something like, and we think of characters, that means we got about 15, depends on how many characters and tokens. So it talks in tokens because it looks at tokens, but it's about 3 characters to a token, I understand, something like that. So you can have something like 1,500 words, something, but I haven't I haven't done it so it's like a long essay of that kind. But when I've used it, it's either for a template or a long document I'm working on, I've got it on my screen. I can amend it. Amend it with websites. So if I'm telling my web developer, for example, or if you're working with a web developer, you can you could actually upload the Word PDF, upload that PDF document. You can then make any changes and then download it and share it with your web developer, which would save you so much more time than having to kind of, tell him which lot, it's so much quicker. You'll notice once you use it how quickly it would be. Changing dates, terms and conditions, you've uploaded any T&Cs, that type of thing. So yeah, so it's quite a lot of areas we use templates for that we might be amending regularly. Was that the question?
Yep, that's happy. Thank you very much.
Simbo, did you have a question as well?
No, but I was just thinking of using it for an academic paper, and so especially when there's a word limit, and you've got, this awfully long content. So this might be a good way to kind of shorten it. And I'm just thinking, doesn't ChatGPT do that normally without the canvas element? And what's the difference and the benefits?
Yeah, it will shorten it, and you still have it in the conversation thread.
Okay.
Got it in the conversation thread. You haven't got it on the visibility that you would have like on one page, like you've got your document open in front of you. It's not, and you can't amend it. So you can't amend it in the chat. You can only then prompt it to change it. It will give you that document. And then even then, it might give you there may be sections missing. It might dilute the bit. So, noise to the noise ratio, that you might find that somehow the messaging changes. It's losing where it started. Sometimes that happens. So it keeps you top of mind of where you're working, and you can sort of have, you can bold that, you can italicize, you can do that within that space. You can then still use AI to say, actually, no, that's not what I wanted. Go back and put it back, or you can still ask it to do that. Otherwise, you still got it in that long thread. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing I would do is rather than do big chunks, it's like realistically, how long is that you're working on? If it gets too long anyway, you might want to section that piece anyway, because it's too long to work in that space. Personally, because it's like, okay, working on perhaps an executive summary, or working on this section. This will be helpful. I can draw on some ideas. I can maybe the citation's wrong. I can make that change immediately there, or I can say, indent, like it will indent it for you. You can instruct it to indent it very quickly. So it really suits different styles of working. I find that, rather than getting really kind of like a little bit caught up in a lot of like long chats, like I said, the messaging or the noise ratio. Billo, did you want to ask a question? How do you see using this?
Really like the navigation, the layout as well. I think it's quite straightforward. I'm sort of savvy with other like similar, AI platforms, but I really like it actually. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I will explore to see how I can use it myself.
Yeah, 100%. You're right. There's so many different tools, and one thing, we can start learning lots of other tools, but I find that if I'm in one, it's getting better anyway.
Yeah.
And the other thing it also understands is how you show up. Have we talked about memory together and that type of thing? And so some of that we can turn off, some of it recognizes us. Sometimes we can, sometimes we don't want it to know who we are. So we can kind of take that, we can remove that. But it starts understanding your behavior, how you perhaps write, but more we kind of contain it, and use it in that way. It really, And then the other thing I found was I had someone using Canvas, and they said, what do I do with it now? And I said, well, what you do with it once you're ready. So if it's a business report or anything like that, remember you can have tables in this report too. So maybe that's something we can look at. How do you incorporate tables? If you're including a report with statistics, that type of thing, you can definitely do that. The one thing you can also just do once you're there, you would simply go and let me see where I am. Let me go back into the chat here. So once I'm ready with it and I'm happy with this, because it's like anything we're using, it's again, we're going to use it for different purposes, but I would go to the top. Okay, I'm happy with this. Say if I want to change it, and remember, sometimes it may, for those of you who are in the UK, we're looking at kind of having British English if that's what we want. Some people are saying it doesn't matter, but most people are like, okay, keep it consistent. I would say try and keep it as consistent as possible. And I don't always do that. So, but anyway, and then what you have is you can copy it, simply copy it from here on, I don't know if you can see it, the right-hand side at the top corner, right-hand corner, and then you can copy and paste it. It's ready for you then. In terms of formatting, of course, you then can format it using whatever tool you're using, whether it's Word or using Google Docs. And the content's there. It's ready for you to kind of like share, and you have your kind of work. But the nice thing is it's in this space. There's so many different things. When you're using it, please share what you're using it for. You've got add polish. Now, for those people who are using it, say create content, you can have emojis. If you're using, I know sometimes people are using it for TikTok, creating TikTok content. You can add emojis there, have final polish, you can reduce, you can edit, have suggestions. Now, like I said, as professionals, we don't really always want suggestions. Sometimes they're helpful, sometimes they're not. So it may be helpful, may not, but you can ignore the suggestions. And so when they give you suggestions, you can click on that, and then what it will do is it will highlight. So you can, if it suggests, but it actually sometimes gives you suggestions here. Maybe for this one, it hasn't. So it might start highlighting word choice itself. But on the whole, for what we're doing, for most of I know what most of you are doing, it's unlikely you're going to need that. Unless you're saying, and I would draw on the research. So once you have this document, if it's a template, it could just simply be a template you're filling in. You're kind of drawing on the AI, which is the GPT space, and you're not jumping between lots of different AI tools. You can, I find it, I like it. And like I said, you can continue using the chat. Okay, so have a think for all of for yourselves how you might use it, what it would be, and like it's always about experimenting and seeing how that works. So before I move on to projects, I just want to double check with the free version, what features do you have? Maybe you can share with me, because it's been a while since I've not downgraded, I've just continued, and I was going to check, but I thought I'll ask if anyone here is still not paying. What are you getting with the free version at the moment? Or I'm assuming you are in GPT. Who wants to share? I know Ivan's paying. Simba, perhaps are you paying? If you're not, don't worry. But what are you seeing when you're in that? Are you seeing when you go in the chat? Do you have Canvas? Do you have that?
There's no canvas in the free version. I'm not sure whether anybody has. I had a subscription for 1 month.
Okay.
And I need to keep up with the subscription. But I didn't. Because I wasn't using it the way I should. But I guess I have to go back now. This canvas seems very interesting.
Yeah. And also then you can create your GPTs too, right? With that. So having those GPTs that you can then evoke, because remember you can evoke your GPTs in the Canvas space too. So that's where the magic happens. Using this style, amend this document. So it will change it based on that. So yeah, I mean, and we can't do that in the free version. But you're right, it's only until you're ready to use it, it only makes sense. So I would only say use it when you're, like pay for it when you're going to use it. Otherwise it's just it sits and it's redundant. It just sits down. You look, I mean, I know if you look at kind of all these outgoings and you've got another thing that you've not been kind of using and you're paying for. So we're going to move on. If you've got no questions about Canvas, I'm excited to see how you all use it. Like, love to get some shares from you. We're going to move on to projects now. So again, I don't think this is available in the free version, but let's have a again, and I've noticed that if I'm using something, that's why I know if I'm paying for it, I've got to start I've got to use it, otherwise it doesn't make sense. I'm paying for this one, and there's a lot of free, but they don't have the same. It's like any tool. They're good for like editing. Some are good for videos. Others are good for, kind of voice cloning, like 11 Labs. So they all have their capabilities they're very good at. And Claude is very good for writing. But one thing I found the most helpful is when I've gone into GPT space and what is possible. And so of course we've also got these different versions. I might go into these versions next time just to kind of give you a sense of what these are used for. And we can go into deep research in this space. I feel that could be something we could definitely go into. But okay, so we've got this sidebar. So I tend to have this sidebar open, and so and these are all GPTs, right? So all kind of bespoke with their kind of kind of expertise uploaded in there. I can evoke them in conversation. I can use them in this space. But one thing you find is, and you don't always have to scroll, you can actually just, when you're in the chat, you could just start a new chat and app, like you can search for a chat as well. So you can see the ones we've been having today, some of those. But if I want to start a new, so if I want to go below, I can obviously go here. Now, I just want to, just for some of you who decide to, I know most of you will. So you also have something called Explore GPTs, and there's lots of GPTs here. It's really easy to get lost in them, and they are like having your own GPT, except others have put them out there, made them publicly available. You can obviously do that with your own, but like I think there's only one I've made publicly available. All the ones I've created have been for my own purpose. I've not made them publicly available. I use them for my own writing. I use them for creating content. I created one for Leaderize bi-weekly sessions. So I've got a framework. I then use for creating slides. So everything I'm doing repetitively, I'm thinking, how can I create a GPT that will support me? That's how I'm thinking. I hope you start thinking in that way, because once you start doing that, it will make your job so much easier. I just wanted to say that. So projects, I started, so if I've kept, I had a project, kept a holiday project I deleted as well, because it was like checking flights or what time's the flight coming in, things like that. It was actually quite fun. But you can then go into the project area and then what did I put in here? Actually, let's have a look at the AI client resource bank. So in here, Similar to what you would do with when you're creating a GPT, you would, again, you can upload files when you're speaking or you're in your project space. And you've got the dictation mode, you've also got Canvas option 2, you've got the search, and you've got the various files. Now, the difference between, say, projects and GPTs, and this is something I've spoken to quite a few people about, is that we can't evoke our GPTs in this space. So it's very much you're working on a project and you've got your files. So I've kept some files here. So I've kept the ones I've been working on, sort of an AI. So these are the ones when I'm creating documents, I'm uploading those documents in there, not many for this one. And then I've added some instructions. And so similar to when you're creating your GPTs, and then it gives you some prompts. How can this project, or how can GPT best help you with this project? And you would then you would give it some information about what it is you want. I can't seem to move it around a bit. Okay, and I think it's because I'm on. But anyway, I've added kind of information in there. I think it's to do with me being on Zoom. It's not allowing me to move around so much. But I added instructions in here. And then you can just save those. And I'm just going to come out of it because I don't updated anything. But it's become a resource bank. And then, of course, I can start a new chat, and then what it does, it lifts and adds, it draws on this information here in these files in this space. So we can, when we want to do that, you can add the color. So simply, if you're thinking of creating a project, you would go into projects, you would give it a name, you would say what project it is, and then you would simply create it, and then you could start putting information in there. It could just be a product launch you want to track, or a campaign you're putting out, or perhaps you've got some resources for research. So if you're putting some of that together and you're collecting your research, you might want to put it in one place. These documents, you've not downloaded these documents, it's to use in this space. So just be careful that once you upload this document, it's not like you can upload, download. It will draw on this information and it will do kind of a pretty good job. So in these conversations, I've been using it. I find it really helpful, like the Q2 challenge recap, list the goals for each person. And these are people that we're working with together. And so I've uploaded 11 files, the meeting notes, and then each time how we progress, and I can check how much progress we're making in this space as we kind of continue with in this quarter. So those are just some of the things that we're working on. And before we go, okay, and I just want to finalize a few pointers so I don't miss out on the slides I started. I know it's coming up to time, and I'm also mindful I want to give you opportunity to answer or ask questions, or perhaps even answer something that's come up that somebody may have raised in the chat and I may have missed it. So we've covered Canvas projects. We're looking at kind of strategically using this. And so it's about clarity. It's always about kind of having a clear strategy and keeping focus. Start with projects, but you may say, I'm not ready with projects at the moment. Use Canvas for editing, iterating, and with AI directly in that workflow. And it eliminates kind of switching and summary of each tool. So we're editing with Canvas. Projects, we're organizing files. When we're looking at repeatable workflows, we've got customized GPT when we're looking at assistance. And so what quick questions, we've got the chat, and of course, managing ongoing work. And just to say, we will meet next time on the 7th of May. We'll be here again, same time. And I'd love your feedback. I don't know why that's appeared in there. and things that I can improve, things that will help, that will be much appreciated. Any questions? I know we've gone over time. Anything, any comments, anything you feel, and what are the things you're taking away? Perhaps you can share that, would be really helpful. You can share in the chat. Yeah, Ivan.
Thank you. As always, very informative, which is wonderful. And I think your last slide kind of sums it up quite nicely as where to use, each thing, projects. I've used projects. I find them quite useful. And also the Canvas thing is actually something that's well worth coming to grips with, I think, is the words I would use. Everything's a learning curve at the moment, like a skyrocket. So thank you.
I'm excited to see how you're using it. Absolutely. Yeah. And you'll see things where we've taken a long time, gone backwards, and we have edits. You'll notice you don't have to have those edits and many sort of versions. You could put it into that, share it with whoever it is, and then, amend something really quickly. Yeah, and show others how to use it, because people perhaps are not using this. You're like, okay, you're spending hours doing something that could take not very long to do in this space. So yeah. And the others, how will they be using it? Dee's here. Dee, I haven't seen you that you're on. It's good to see you on. How will you use it? You can share, you can type. I know Dee's often working. Key, how will you use it? I'd love to hear how you might use it and share. Really appreciate you being here. Okay, Billy had to go, and okay, you have plus like myself. Okay, fantastic. D, how will you use it? And Key, any insights, any shares you want to give? Sorry, at work. Okay, no worries, D. I think people at work could be using this, right? Because it's like something that perhaps they're not using, but it would help them too. Hyatt, what about yourself? And I know I've gone over time, so I appreciate your patience. And Hyatt, how do you see yourself using it? Hopefully Hyatt's here still. Okay, might be listening in. I just want to say thank you so much. And do use these tools, because they are here now. And more we familiarize ourselves and use them, experiment with them, and use them for our work. Like I said, if there's something you're doing repeatedly, think of creating a GPT. The project, when you've got lots of files, you're thinking, okay, I'm working on this for a few weeks. Let's put this in projects. Or if you're using Canvas, what am I using? What document am I amending that I can upload, quickly save, and make those changes? Okay. But look at the time. Sorry, due to another call. Okay, another call start. Okay, not a problem. Thank you so very much. I appreciate you all for being here. And share your feedback. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. And if you've got any suggestions, anything you're working on, I may go into the deep research component, because I feel that's the part that people are missing a little bit. And so an area that is yeah, really interesting too. So have a great rest of your day. Thank you for showing up, and excited to see how you're doing with everything. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks, if not sooner. Bye for now. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, Bally. Thank you, everyone. Bye.